What's up? Again, Matt Monchimon here, and want to break down something that I was thinking about earlier today, and it has to do with energy, electricity. So I'm in my house, you're in your house, and let's say the energy goes down. The lights aren't turning on, there's no energy in the house. What do we do? What do you do? Well, you go to the breaker panel, you go to the source of the energy, of the electricity, and you flip it and you see if it works. Maybe you look outside, you see if the neighbors have energy, electricity, see what's going on with it. So our house is the vessel that we live in. What about our body? Our body is the vessel that we live in. So our body, what happens when we don't have energy? A lot of us are living this world with chronic low energy. So what do we usually do? Do we go to the source of where the energy is coming from? Because in my mind, there's 4 ways that we get energy. Or do we try and change the light bulb? There's no energy anyways, but we change the light bulb and it's still really not a solution. Or we turn on a battery with a flashlight. And with the flashlight and the battery, what that is, that's the coffee in the morning. That's the tea. That's the stimulants. That's what we're trying to take every day, little pills to give us energy, to magically change the situation. But that's just like shining a flashlight in a dark house, because the dark house has no energy. So what are the 4 things that we can do to give us truly lasting, powerful energy throughout our day, throughout our lives? Because every time I go for the coffee, yeah, it might give me a boost of energy, but that's not really going after the underlying cause of why I don't have energy. Why the house doesn't have energy. The flashlight's not going to solve that. It might be a temporary remedy, but eventually those batteries are going to die. And we really want to go after the underlying reason that we don't have energy in the house, in our bodies, in ourselves. So with ourselves, what are the 4 ways we bring energy into the body? Number 1, it's the breath. The air is electrically charged. It has positive and negative ions. In nature, we find more negative ions in the air. In cities, in dense landscapes, with Wi-Fi, with 5G technology, with cell phones, with formaldehyde on the carpets, we find more positive ion energy. And what's really invigorating and energy fulfilling is the negative ion energy, which is why you often feel so energized just being out in nature, even if you didn't have your coffee. So energized in nature, even though you just hiked 10 miles and you still have so much energy. That's because the number 1 energy source that we have is through the air that we breathe. And it's not only the quality of the air that we breathe, which even if we live in an urban environment, we can put plants in our houses or our apartments, which will clean the air and filter the air. And we can also use different air filters to improve the air quality. It's not only the quality of the air, but the quality of the intake of the air. So how are we breathing in the air? Most of us, because they never really taught us how to breathe in school, probably the number 1 most important thing, we aren't breathing properly. So we're breathing from the chest. We're not really breathing deep diaphragmatic breaths from deep in the chest. So really, the breath should start in the belly, and deep breathing is going to allow us to bring in so much more energy just through the breath that might be the only thing that we really need to change. So we've got energy from 4 sources. Number 1 source is the air that we breathe. Second source is the water that we drink. Do we drink polluted water? Do we trust the tap water in our cities? Do we trust the bottled water? We generally try to do the best that we can. So as they say, any filter is better than no filter. Because if you don't have a filter, you're the filter. Your kidneys and your body is going to try to filter all the toxins that are in the water. So any filter is better than no filter. And if we want to talk about an ideal scenario, we either have a water distiller, which is very cheap, and we could remineralize and do certain things to bring more energy into the water. Or we have natural spring water that we can actually go to a spring and find. If you go to findaspring.com, you'll be able to find a spring right near you where you can fill up, most of the time, free spring water that has the life force energy of the spring and the planet, and that will bring in so much more energy into your being. So we've got the air that we breathe, we've got the water that we drink, and the intention that we bring to both of those. So the intention I cultivate with my breath, the intention when I hold that glass of water and I drink it. Now we have the third way. The third way is through the food that we eat. Most people would think it's only the food, that's the only place I'm getting the energy. But really, we have 4 ways. The food is very important, however. The food will give us all the minerals, all the vitamins, all the nutrients that we need in order to thrive. An important thing when we're talking about energy, like we talked about with the house, is electricity. Food is electric too. So if we're eating electrically charged food, that generally means that we're eating raw fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, raw foods that carry the electric charge. And so sometimes it's not only about the kind of macro perspective of how much protein, carbs, and fats I'm eating, but it's about the electricity in the food. And as we talked about earlier, the intention at which I approach the food, at which I consume the food. So I enjoy eating electrically charged foods. For me, there's nothing really more electric than eating a giant watermelon for a lunchtime in the summer. That watermelon has water. It's got the chi and the prana of the life force of the earth that literally grew it and the water that rained down upon it. And it's got electricity. It's really electric. So I enjoy the mono meals of fruits and vegetables and the electrically charged raw foods. But we can really cultivate intention and consume any food and allow that to really build our internal energy structure. Now the fourth way is through actually the non-doing. So it's the sleep, it's the rest, it's the fasting. And these things will actually allow our body to regenerate, allow our body to re-stimulate with energy and electricity, even though we're not really doing anything at all. So when I lie down to sleep, I'm not consuming anything, but I am breathing and I'm allowing my body just to rest, and that alone will give you so much energy. So how much are we sleeping at night? How much are we sleeping during the day? What are the patterns of sleep? How deep are we sleeping? What am I consuming right before I sleep? Am I staring at my phone right before I sleep and getting hit with all that? Am I reading a book? Am I meditating? Am I moving my body? Am I breathing? What is that we're cultivating before we go to sleep and recharge our body? That's going to be really important. And then once we're recharged in the morning, what's the first thing we do in the morning? I know for most of us, it's look at the phone and play around with the phone. I'm guilty of it too sometimes. But if we can just cultivate a little section of our day right when we wake up and hold that space to be able to bring the energy, solidify and deepen the energy that we just consumed, that we just received from our sleep, that's going to have a lot more long-lasting effect. So those are the 4 things that we can really focus on. It's the breath, it's the water and the liquids that we're consuming, the foods that we're consuming, and it's the non-doing, the sleeping, the resting, and the fasting, not eating any food, that are really our principal forms of energy that we're consuming, that we're receiving. And so Many times, like I said, we might just go for that flashlight, that quick fix. But in the end, if we just work on one of those four, or a little bit of each of those four, we're going to see that we have so much more energy. We're so much more charged electrically, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, that we're going to be able to step into our power, step into our dreams, and be able to become the greatest version of ourselves that we can. That's what it's all about. Peace and love. Thanks for listening.